Wonderful. Well, they are going to find me a clicker and we're going to get started. I want to take it, thank you, in a different direction here as we talk about data and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we find our way finally to blockchain. Because our speakers have been so interesting today, and yet I work with all of these topics on a daily basis, but in the context of business, and actually how we take it from the concept down to business and make an impact. Before I came to Geneva, and I love to come to Geneva, I checked online, I do it in every big city in the world I travel to, what's the #1 pizza? And according to the top 7 pizzas in Geneva, it's a website you can find, it's apparently Pizzeria di Paolo. And I'd just like to walk through this so everyone relaxes and we come back in, right? So you can just imagine the caller calling and saying, is this Pizzeria di Paolo? No, sir, it's Google Pizza. Oh, I must have dialed the wrong number. Sorry. No, sir, Google bought Pizzeria di Paolo just last month. Okay, I would like to order a pizza. Do you want the usual, sir? My usual? You know me. Well, according to your caller ID, your standard order is the capricosa, right? Mozzarella, ham with extra oil in your case. Okay, that's what I want. Well, may we suggest this time you order vegetarian? Mushrooms, eggplant, zucchini, spinach, olives, and capers. What? I hate vegetables. Your cholesterol is not good, sir. How the heck do you know that? Well, we referenced your telephone number in your medical records. Right? No, what? I mean, I take medications for my cholesterol. Excuse me, sir, but you do not take your medication regularly. According to our data, you have not purchased any cholesterol medicine in the last 3 months. Ha! I've bought more you don't know about. A purchase is not shown on your credit card statement. But I paid in cash. But according to your bank statement, you have not withdrawn enough cash. I have other sources of cash. Other sources are not shown on your tax return. Using undeclared income is against the law. What is going on? Right? Sir, we only use such information with the intention of helping you. Enough. I want my privacy. Right? I want to go to an island where there's no cell phones, no internet, no tracking. We understand, sir, but you're going to need to renew your passport first because it expired 6 weeks ago. Right. Oracle is a very large data company. We work with the largest brands, every one of the GAFAs that's been discussed today, all of the Netflix, all of the FANGs. Everyone we work with over the last 40 years, we focus on data and security. And the reason I like to start out with data privacy is while it's extremely important to me personally, and I think to all of us as citizens, the reality is that it's just like driving a car. Anybody in here who's ever driven a car has gone over the speed limit. And when you get caught going over the speed limit, what do? You pay the ticket and you keep driving. And anyone who's going to drive again in the future is probably going to go over the speed limit. And I'm just being a realist here. With data privacy, when Google got in trouble with the Republic of Ireland, they wrote a check for $3.2 billion US and moved on. When Facebook got in trouble with the US government, they wrote a check for $5 billion and they moved on. That's not going to be me personally, that's not going to be my company, I doubt it's going to be anyone in this audience. But what it does show you is that it's a rule and regulation, but we should be honest about where we're going. There's a lot of elements of privacy that are extremely important, but if you were to come to see me in Chicago where I live, you could rent a car. Your driver's license works as a certificate. And what's legal, since I know you're capable of driving a car here, you could rent one in my hometown of Chicago, and we agree to honor each other's certificates. You know, when one of us puts a liter of fuel into the vehicle, we don't measure it in glass and then pour it in. There's a certificate on the pump that the government certifies the legal usage. And it's a pump, and it's a gallon, or it's a liter. And that's going to continue with data in general. So instead, I want to talk about data and privacy, but I want to try and bring it out of what we've talked about so far today, because there's lots of different areas here where the data actually lives. When any of us have a good idea, even if it was just having a bake sale or a lemonade stand as a child, we created a product and we created demand. I represent that as the front office, where we do marketing and we produce sales and we have agencies we hire and we advertise, and we use a lot of data there. And when we're successful, when somebody buys something, we bring them down to what we generally call the back office. And that's where we keep track of all of our financial records and our shipment records and everything else I put there. Our ERP system, our order management system, it's supply chain, it's planning, it's all sorts of different things, and we call that the back office. And every one of you and everybody who works for a company has the quiet enjoyment of these two, front office and back office, every day, and that's how business runs. And there's third-party data that's anonymous that we use for advertising that helps me fill the funnel to produce a customer, which creates first-party data, which I then put in my back office and I keep going. What's really changed, and I think so much about what this day signifies, is what's in the lower left-hand corner. There's all types of data types that were never envisioned when the systems in the bottom corner here were created, right? We heard today, and we saw the picture, 2007 in June was the first smartphone. All of the data types right here have come since 2007. There's no way to put the two different types of data together. I know, I've tried, I've failed. I've done this everywhere. So putting the data together has been the secret to how the GAFAs and the FANGs have suddenly jumped ahead of everybody. They actually run in a dual system. They run on the left, just like you would think like every business here does, or every school does, or every theater company does. And then they also run like we hear on the right. And what they've done in innovation, and I've heard different definitions of the word innovation. I would tell you that in a business context, innovation means revenue. That's really all it means. You innovate to drive more revenue. At the very top of every commercial enterprise you all work with, it's about revenue and it's about risk. Those are the two considerations at the very top. Eliminating risk, driving greater revenue. Yes, there's social responsibility. Yes, we believe you can win in life and in business. It's not mutually exclusive, it can be the same. But with this idea, if you can find a way to run the data that's in the right-hand side here, that's the new types, simultaneously with the old types, you can compete with the GAFAs and the FANGs and everybody else. And that's what I came to talk about. Here's a different picture of AI and how that works, just so everyone understands. You cannot disrupt the front office and back office. Every time one of us says, "Hey Siri," nothing stops at Apple, right? They just keep doing front office, back office, and in a different system, Siri answers a question. When you say, "Hey Alexa," nothing Jeff Bezos does at Amazon stops. He's running in a different system. Here's how the different systems work. And I just want to make it clear, AI today seems to be everything. The coffee maker's AI, right? The water machine's AI, everything's AI. That's crazy. In reality, it's machine learning, and that's what I have in the middle of the picture here for you. And it's a model. It's a mathematical model. It's no different than the mathematical model that your insurance company uses to price your insurance. It's no different than the mathematical the mathematical model the bank uses to make a mortgage loan to you. It's no different than simple math. What we feed into the machine learning models are seeds or actions that we use to predict a behavior or something we want to identify, and features, actions that people take, that first-party data. From there, we write an equation, we score it, and this is the secret piece. This is the graph. You see it says ID graph, it could say person graph, it could say lots of things. But a graph has hundreds, actually thousands of data points about a person. And a typical system of CRM or ERP or any financial system, here in Europe, I spent the last 90 days here, on average people market with somewhere around 8 data points. Maybe 5 fields at the low end and 20 at the high end. When you talk about the GAFAs and the FANGs, they use thousands. All of us in this room are in 3 different graphs that I know of, right? The first one, the obvious one for all of us in our business lives, is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is 650 million people around the planet in every country on earth putting in their own details and giving that freely. That's a graph. Facebook, that we've heard mentioned and referenced, right, connects 4 billion people on the planet and about 2 billion every day. Again, that's a graph. Even what the immigration and border control and government systems use when I entered and my picture was taken and it was compared to a passport and all of that in real time, that's a graph. So this is how they function. We feed it in the machine learning model, we run our equations, we score, we feed our result set back to the graph, and then we make a determination based on the touch point. So I just want to simplify it because this is not that hard. I think the thought sometimes is you can't compete with the GAFAs and the FANGs, and I'm here to tell you, absolutely you can. This is not the property of anybody. This scheme, the mathematics involved is the same math I learned at university 35 years ago. This is simple, straightforward, and it works for everybody. So how do we take this now towards this concept of personal data sovereignty and where we're headed in the next session today, into our personal lives? Because in business, obviously, the ramifications are huge. There's lots of things we can do in business. There's lots of great ideas that are going to come out of today that can become part of business. But in my personal life, how do I take this forward? I'll give you an example because we're heading into blockchain now, and that's really kind of the output of processing this data, of thinking about it with an algorithm, of machine learning, and then driving it somewhere real. I picked healthcare because I have a 90-year-old father-in-law who lives with me. My father's 88, my mother's 84, and they live around the corner from me. I look after all of them. Probably not unlike some people in this room, maybe it's your grandparents. When you take an elderly person that you care about to the doctor's office, it's very difficult with all their different medical records, right? It's fancy and fine to say things like clinical research or health supply chain management or financial records and insurance. This idea of digital identity, though, taking the concepts that we're talking about and bringing it into a blockchain, and obviously our speakers coming after me are going to really take you through blockchain. But there's three things about it, right? It's distributed, it's immutable, meaning you can't change it without everyone else knowing, and it's consensus-driven. Are really interesting because I work with an outfit in my hometown of Chicago that has a simple blockchain that's on a keyring. They actually put a barcode on the back of a poker chip and use it for like handing out employee benefits and handing out rewards. And I asked them if they could start a blockchain for us that I could carry around the medical records of my 90-year-old father-in-law. And every time I take him to a different doctor or a different specialist, he could show up and just rub his poker chip key chain on and bring up all of his records. And that's very practical and very possible. That's a very normal influence into our daily life. So it obviously works for these technical subjects, but if you really want to think about how the tech changes, my parents and my father-in-law can't even really handle a smartphone anymore. They have these phones that have these giant buttons, and they just hit numbers, and they're always saying, it doesn't work. But every single person here can pull a keychain out of their pocket and could have their blockchain right here. And just with a simple identification in this, that would be a way to go forward and carry around your medical record. Or in an employee sense, carry around the benefit system that I have at work. Or in a student sense, carry around my resume or my CV or my grades. All of those things are normal. And if we were to look at this being pervasive everywhere and not of the future, this is the keychain that I'm holding. That's actually the record setup. But I just looked for 30 examples of blockchain in daily life to bring it down to everybody so you realize it's here and now. Because when most people say blockchain, they think about Bitcoin. That's fine. If you want to gamble, go to the racetrack, right? If you want to gamble, go to the stock market. But in all of these areas here that you see, from things like typical mobile payments or insurance, et cetera, it's out to things like endangered species protection and border control, to food production, to fine art, to lots of different things. So what we're talking about today, I just want to give you, it's a very positive thing in my opinion. Nobody wants to go backwards. I am not in the least bit afraid of this advancing, and nor should you be. It was very difficult when a farmer and his family had to pull a plow, and it was better when we got an ox or a cow to pull the plow. It was better when the cow got replaced with a tractor for the farmer. And today, when that tractor now can drive itself, it's better still for the farmer and for the family because they can focus on other things like crop rotation. The point is, nobody wants to go backward, and if we're going to go forward, we have to go forward with our eyes open. Data privacy is continuing to get solved, right? Machine learning is becoming available to everybody, small companies, individuals, and big companies. The ability to take on the GAFAs and the FANG is already here, and I work with people who do it every day. And how it goes forward to make our life better is in all of these different areas, carrying around my identification, my records, and what I need to do business could be done as simply as a barcode on a keychain. So that's what I wanted to bring forward. I think very positively about this. I think all of these things together are what we've been doing for the last 40 years, but more importantly, we work with companies here in Switzerland all the time. You know, the nuclear accelerator labs use it. The Swiss Telecom does this, right? SGS does this. Nestle has parts of this. Swiss Post has parts of this. So all of this stuff builds, and it's really exciting, and I think the future is only going to get better. So let me ask you to come back and join me out here, and let's take our last couple minutes to have a discussion.
Joe, many thanks for this keynote. To me, data privacy is dead because we have given away all our data. So can we just rely on transparency? Is transparency the new paradigm to protect users?
I think very much that it is. And I think it goes back to this idea, everybody here when you travel internationally carries a passport. A passport has your picture. When you get off the plane and you walk into immigration, it's unstructured, it's taken without your consent, it's compared to highly structured to everyone in the world, it's compared to your details, and you're let into the country. And that's a matter of moments. So transparency, when it's that transparent, works. And we have examples of it. So I think that's where it's headed.
So when it's that transparent, that's the criteria. And when is it that transparent? Because it's not, I mean, how can we, require from our services providers that transparency?
That's going to continue. It's not fair that anybody gets a user agreement on an application that's 35 pages long. The phone won't work if you don't say yes. And more importantly, for children, for my parents, my grandparents, and even for people like me, it's too much to read, and I'm not a lawyer, as you would understand. So therefore, it's going to continue to have to be simplified. Every time you plug your mobile into your car to do a map, you leave some data behind. Every time you give an instruction or use a credit card, believe it or not, you leave some data behind. Every time I say you give an instruction, you tell something in your house to turn on the lights or turn it off, or just ask Alexa to tell you a joke, you leave some data behind. So we're going to have to be educated. But on the flip side, television didn't ruin anybody's life. Rock and roll music didn't ruin anybody's life. We're going to figure out as we go forward that data is not going to ruin anybody's life.
So we're in the deception phase of this technological evolution.
Yeah.
And could we tokenize our data?
Certainly.
So that we know when we are giving them away. Oh, that's...
Yep, personal data summary, you can have it. Yeah, that's where a lot of it's going to head.
And talking about the cloud and the services of AI that, for instance, Oracle offers today, is it accessible to the rest of us, to the small and medium companies?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest change. With the cloud, not AI, it's important to understand that we just heard our previous speaker talk about having to build data centers and having to buy servers and $300 million and all of these things. Today, 20 people can do this and just rent it and just subscribe to it lightly. And this capability is going to democratize further the transparency because it is available literally to everybody.
But talking about the infrastructures, I mean, not everybody is still connected today by 2020. So how can we overcome this challenge? Because we know that 5G is not spreading that fast.
No, it won't. Well, I think then it becomes a very good question about where you decide to do this. So I work with some companies in the middle of Africa that deliver everything they do through WhatsApp, and WhatsApp running on like a 2G network. So what we have to get comfortable with is that bandwidth is an issue, and 5G will change the world 3 to 5 years from now. But for today or for this afternoon, I just have to alter where I'm thinking about doing this. And if I can deliver sales and service and marketing through a messenger application, then WhatsApp is available to anybody with a phone.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a great day.
See you.